Recently in Egypt they have found a temple that honours Zeus, but it's not the Zeus, because Zeus would have been in Mesopotamian times Enlil, and here you'll see it says it's a mixture emerges between Zeus, which would have been Enlil, and Mount Cassius. So here it says the temple honours Zeus Cassius, a deity who merges Zeus and Mount Cassius, located on the border of Syria and Turkey, the mountain associated with the legendary battle that took place between Zeus and the monster Typhon to decide who would rule the cosmos. Zeus won with the help of his trusty lightning bolt. Now, that's not the way I see it. Ninurta, who would have been Apollo, is the son of Zeus, which was Enlil, and he had the actual battle in that same location with lightning bolts, massive battle in Sumerian history, and he killed Anzu, who was stealing the tablets of destiny. So that was actually the battle in that location. So I think I might be right and they might be wrong. Maybe. Keep watching if you want me to prove mainstream lie. Okay, here's an article. Archaeology breakthrough, a stunning Egyptian tomb poised to reveal Pharaoh's secrets. So basically this article talks about archaeologists unearth an ancient tomb next to the Step Pyramid in Saqqara, where King Diyusha was buried inside. Now, anyone that knows anything knows there was no bodies ever found in any pyramid. So let's have a look what else people talk about. Well, then they actually say elsewhere that the body was removed by ancient thieves. In other words, because there's no body, they use the old excuse, well, it was ancient thieves that took it, and only left a mummified foot. Okay, so let's have a look even more. Now, this is the actual tomb they're referring to in that stepped pyramid. As you can see there, it is a colossus thing, and as you can see, it was untouched. So somehow they managed to get in there. But let's just have a look. This is supposed to be a tomb. Now, all tombs, and proper tombs, not pyramids, have hieroglyphs around. Even if they're unfinished, they still have hieroglyphs. In fact, the tomb that they're referring to that's next to that, these are the actual hieroglyphs there, and people can see them. But in the Step Pyramid, where they pretend that a pharaoh was buried because they don't want us to know the truth, you'll see that there is no hieroglyphs whatsoever, because no pyramid was a tomb. Coincidence or Anunnaki bringing materials from space to Earth? Now, these here are small fragments of extraterrestrial stones found in Egypt. Now, that's funny. Let's have a look. Egypt. Where's Egypt? Very near. There's the Nile there. So Egypt is here, and Mesopotamia is there. The Anunnakis were there, and as we know, the Anunnakis were there as Ra, etc., and Ptah. So how come the meteorites always seem to land? And now also, don't forget, Tutankhamun's knife handle was also made of meteorite. So you've got to start asking yourself, why is meteorites hitting Egypt stroke Mesopotamia? When you have a look at the actual how the planet works, and yes, it's round, don't even get me started on flat Earth. Not only is it spinning, it's also going round in an orbit. So how come all of these meteorites seem to be landing in that? This gentleman here, Robert Curzon, would have told you to your face in 1834 that there were manuscripts that belonged in the Bible in ancient Egypt. However, if you read the article, it carries on and says that they were, most of them were kept under lock and key, which means they were hiding them for a reason. Now, if you scroll down and carry on reading, basically it talks about this gentleman finding out about these manuscripts that were in a monastery in Egypt. Now, we kind of know that we're never going to see those manuscripts that belong, and it goes on about the Christian texts, etc., why they was hidden. But really, we know why they were hidden, or I do, because I think they would have talked about the Anunnaki, would have talked about gods, etc., that would have changed the way that Christians would have believed in God. So unfortunately, I think once again we've been lied to and we'll never see the light of day.
Petrify, not at all. Things can petrify very quickly. We've got some examples here on the table of things that petrified very quickly. I'll show you those in a second. Here's a picture of a petrified water wheel. Here's petrified firewood. It was chopped on before it got petrified. You can go to Southern Forest World Museum in Georgia, Waycross, Georgia. There's a mummified dog stuck inside a tree. Some people say it's petrified. I don't know if it's mummified. I've not been there yet. But anyway, how can a dog get mummified just in probably a few years? Chased a coon up the tree, got stuck. They named it Stucky, of course. That's the name for the dog. They had a contest to name it, and so they called it Stucky. tree, they cut the tree down for firewood, there's a dog inside. Here's a petrified cowboy boot with the cowboy's legs still in it. The boot was made in the 1950s. Got his leg shot off or torn off or who knows what, but there's his leg petrified. Here's a petrified fish giving birth. A petrified hammer was found from a Marine barracks from World War II. Petrified hammer. Petrified hat found in New Zealand. Here's a kid, a kid sent me this right here on the table, a petrified crayon found in Arizona. I mean, the crayon is turned to stone. We have right here a petrified pickle. It's in our museum. Well, it's here tonight, but a guy sent me this and the jar with it. The jar is still in our museum. He said, Brother Hovind, I found this old house in Montana. The roof was gone. The house had been empty at least 30 years. But we were digging around through what's left of this house and found the pantry. And there were pickle jars in there, but the lid to one of the jars rusted, and the pickle inside turned to stone. Would you like it for your museum? I said, well, yeah, of course. One kid wrote me a letter. Here's the letter right here. He said, Brother Hovind, I was 8 years old doing a science experiment. I put a bunch of acorns in a bucket of water to see if they would sprout. And I forgot about them. A year later, my mom saw the bucket on the back porch. She said, get rid of that bucket and all that junk out there. He said, the acorns had turned to stone in 1 year. I have right here a baggie of petrified acorns. It doesn't take long, folks. Don't let them tell you it takes millions of years for things to petrify. It's not true. A guy sent me a picture of a petrified pin cushion. The pin cushion, you can see the pins had rusted off, except where you can see the rust marks where the pins had been stuck in there. Petrified pin cushion. They dug up a grave in Tennessee several years ago. They found the body of the person inside the grave had petrified, turned to stone. The doctor died and they buried him. 14 years later, his wife died. This is back in 1881. They dug a hole to bury Grandma, and water went into the hole. And they thought, oh, we don't want to bury Grandma in the water, so they buried her someplace else. And then the kids got worried about Grandpa in that moving water. It hit an underground spring, apparently. So they dug up Grandpa. He'd been in the ground 14 years. And the article says, the occupant of the coffin had been turned to stone, presumably as a result of the continual flow of water. It said the arms had rotted off, but the rest of the body had turned to stone, petrified. A guy found a petrified man in Montana. He took it 5'8". The guy carried it around as a museum curiosity for years in carnivals and fairs and stuff. Petrified body of a man found on the beach in Montana, in a beach of a river. In Sao Paulo, Brazil, a lady went into the hospital. She said, my side's been hurting. The lady was 62 years old. They x-rayed her and found a petrified fetus, a baby, inside. She had been pregnant. The baby almost came to term and died, apparently, and turned to stone inside her body. 62-year-old lady with a petrified baby inside. Here's the article. You can read it for yourself. I met a guy in Maryland who said he worked at a hospital, Brian Lackey, who lives in Washington, but there's his phone number. He was in Maryland. He said they brought a lady in there and took out a petrified fetus out of her body. The baby's in the museum now, or in a medical hospital up there. Petrified fetus. Here's petrified sacks of flour found in Arkansas. A flour mill flooded. The flour turned to stone. The sacks of flour were buried in water and mud and turned to rock. So the Bible says the high hills were covered. The earth was totally covered by a flood. 15 cubits, that's about 22 feet, over the mountains. So the skeptics say, where'd all the water go? Oh, it's still here. The Bible says in Genesis chapter 8, the waters assuaged. That means to drop down, to sink down. If we filled this room 4 feet deep in water, and then all of a sudden the floor caved in over here and dropped down 10 feet, that's going to suck all the water from there into the hole. Well, during the flood, you'd get this sinking process as the ocean floors would drop out and the water would rush into those holes. The Bible says the water stood above the mountains. So I think during the first few months of the flood, the animals sorted out and fossils were forming. During the last part of the flood, the plates of the earth are still shifting and they're unstable, and they began to lift up or sink down different places. Thin spots sink down, other
800 videos. Thank you so much to all those that supported me and followed me. Those of you that are new, feel free to watch my videos from 1 onwards. They are in chronological order, so it makes a lot more sense. And if you want to watch them on TikTok, you can, or go to my website, which is in the link or down here somewhere. And coming up in the next lot of videos, we're going to go change the tact from Egypt to ancient Greece, and we're going to find out that the Anunnaki, yes, those guys again, were actually here, and we will cover exactly why. And there's going to be some things in there that only I know I sound big-headed, but you've watched my other videos, you know that a lot of the stuff I say is very well researched. I will show you things that you will not know, no one else has said about ancient Greece, and hopefully it will blow your mind, as I have hopefully done in the previous 799 odd videos. So thank you and keep watching.